New at noon, Little Rock Mayor Frank Scott Jr. has named a new police chief this morning. The mayor announced that interim chief Heath Helton will take on the role full time. Helton helped oversee the launch of the department's new real-time crime center. During the press conference, the mayor shared that the city's violent crime numbers are down. You can watch the full announcement right now on THV11.com, and we're going to have reaction to the news tonight at 5 and 6. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Mackailyn Johnson here with meteorologist Scott Covert. And Scott, we have a lot to talk about.
We do. We have a lot to talk about. It's
calm, but it's cold, and it's going to get colder.
You know, I was out in the weather garden a little bit earlier this morning, and I started to complain about how cold it was, and I caught myself and said, you can't complain about this. This will be considered warm by about this time tomorrow. Let's take a look at the latest with the entire state of Arkansas now under some level of a wind chill alert. In northern Arkansas, we've got a wind chill warning. It's here where we expect the wind chill Thursday night into Friday morning to drop as low as -30. -30? I don't think I've ever said that in my career doing the weather. In the central Arkansas area, certainly going to be very blustery as well, -15 to -20 likely. And in southwest Arkansas, those counties there also under a wind chill watch where they're expected to see wind chills in the negatives. Again, it's all part of a cold front that moves through tomorrow, but still kind of chilly out there today at the noon hour. Right now it's 45 in Little Rock, 42, Batesville, 48 in D. Queen. Your high temperature for today likely makes it up into those upper 40s. A very normal December day. Some clouds have continued to move in, and we are expecting an overcast afternoon. That front moves through western Arkansas tomorrow morning here in the metro by the afternoon hours, and it also brings with it a chance of a wintry mix. Now, the bigger story will remain just how bitter cold it's going to get and the dangerous wind chill that is to follow that front. But coming up here in just a few minutes, we'll take a look at the latest future radar and get an idea of what and how much precipitation you can expect and just how bitter cold it's going to get.
Scott, thank you. And remember, you can always find the latest weather updates on the THV11 app. You can also watch our newscast. It's free to download on the Apple App Store and Google Play. And be sure to follow the THV11 weather team on Facebook for forecasts and updates over the next few days. THV11 is your winter weather central, and we're getting you ready for the cold. And with outside temperatures set to reach dangerously low levels, staying safe and warm inside is key. That means the people who keep our heaters running are working around the clock right now. THV11's Jalissa Garza found out why right now is the time to make sure your heater is ready for what's to come.
Just making sure that everything's running properly and is kind of within the margins of error.
That's what technicians at Pascal Heating and Air are busy doing this week as Arkansans brace for the temperatures to drop.
If you think there's a problem, getting it fixed before it goes down is really the way that you can prevent being without heat.
If you haven't turned your heater on once this winter, now is the time to make sure it's ready.
Let it run for 20-30 minutes, kind of let it run through its startup cycle, and then if it's running and it stays running good, then you can turn it off.
If you turn it on and there's a burning smell, comfort specialist Drew Vest says that's normal.
Because the furnace only operates for, in Arkansas, 2 to 3 months out of the year if we have a normal Arkansas winter. And so for those other 9 to 10 months, you're going to have debris start to build up on those heat exchangers.
Changing your air filter, important too. And if something is wrong, Vest recommends calling an expert right away, especially because some parts can be hard to get a hold of.
What we've seen a lot with all these supply chain shortages that were caused by the pandemic was that the most random parts, sometimes the most parts we use, are starting to get back ordered.
Vest says it's important to keep in mind running your heater might lead to higher energy bills, but there's a way to provide a little relief.
Turn it down a couple of degrees just so it's not going to run as much and as often, and that'll really help with your energy bills.
In Searcy, Jalissa Garza, THV11 News.
Vest says if you're making a call to a technician, be patient. They're working to get to everyone on time. Now, something else to prep ahead of the cold weather, your pipes. There are some simple steps you can take to avoid disaster. Let your faucet drip and open up those cabinet doors to let some heat in. You should also cover those outside spigots, either with blankets or actual spigot covers. Those are just small things you can do to make sure that you save money in the long run.
That little bit of extra money you're going to spend in energy, gas, water, you're going to make it back tenfold when you don't have to call us for a costly plumbing repair.
Now we've got more info on the cold coming in and how to stay ready on THV11.com, and you can text the word weather to 501-376-1111 and we'll send you a link to those resources. The nasty weather is coming at a very inconvenient time, as close to 113 million Americans are expected to travel for the holidays. While today isn't expected to be a busy travel day, Chris Van Cleve tells us why you may want to think about leaving a little earlier.
This morning, the storm that made driving dangerous in the Pacific Northwest.
Pretty icy and pretty slick. Yeah, super slick. It was going like this.
And canceled about 200 flights in and out of Seattle's airport Tuesday is just getting started. The system is now lining up to bring crippling snow and frigid temperatures to major Midwest airport hubs in Detroit, Minneapolis, and Chicago.
I really don't want to miss Christmas with my 2 boys and my husband.
Kelsey Hicks is trying to beat the storm that could steal Christmas. She's at a conference in Chicago and moved up her flight to Thursday morning, hoping to beat the snow and get back to her family in Arkansas.
I'm a little nervous that things aren't going to work out like I hope they would.
165 million Americans coast to coast are in the path of this blast of winter weather, hitting just days before Christmas.
I'm glad I'm leaving today.
Dumping snow in the Midwest, and will head as far south as Texas, just as an estimated 113 million are expected to travel for the holidays.
If you're flying, be prepared to be delayed, disrupted, and canceled, and Christmas dinner may be at an airport.
But most Americans will be hitting the road, with nearly 102 million expected to be driving, including Mike Carter's son, who's trying to beat the storm home to Chicago.
We don't want anything to happen to our holiday plans. That's the whole scary part. Otherwise, we'll have 10 tons of food at home with nobody to eat it.
Why is it such a big deal that Chicago is getting snow right at this peak travel time? It's because it's a huge connecting city. 3 of the nation's 4 biggest airlines have hubs there. United told us during Thanksgiving that about 1 in every 5 of its passengers somehow pass through O'Hare during that holiday. So take that airport out of the mix and you get delays and cancellations that will ripple across the country. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Washington.
Now, earlier in the show, we told you about Little Rock's new police chief, Heath Helton. The announcement comes as the department continues dealing with this year's record number of homicides, something the mayor and new chief say they're focused on. This afternoon, we're learning more about one that happened Sunday night that led to the arrest of 2 teenagers. Little Rock police declined to give more background on the case, citing an open investigation, but THV11 got hold of public court documents that explain what happened. Officers responded to a shots fired call on Torrey Pines Court. A woman told them she was sitting in her car when 3 boys approached her, and one tapped her window with a gun, telling her to get out. But she was armed too and raised her gun at the boy, starting a gunfight. She escaped alive, but the boy did not. Police charged the other 2 teens because of their involvement in the crime. 18-year-old Daryl Jones and 15-year-old Tamarian Jones have both pleaded not guilty to charges of capital murder and aggravated robbery. Meanwhile, 2 more teenagers are facing murder charges in the death of Jaden Shackelford. Little Rock police arrested 18-year-old Evan Franklin and 17-year-old Grant Nickel last week. Both are now being charged with first-degree murder, and Nickel is being charged as an adult. The 2, along with Jordan Parkinson, are accused of killing Shackelford near Merriweather Park in January. Another Arkansan is arrested for alleged involvement in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. According to court documents, Brennan Matchesek of Hinsville was identified on video footage by an FBI tipster who had served with him in the military. He faces charges of disorderly and violent conduct on Capitol grounds and demonstrating in a Capitol building. Meanwhile, the year-and-a-half-long congressional investigation into the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol officially comes to an end today. The House committee investigating the deadly assault is set to release its final report. The investigation lasted nearly 18 months. During that time, it conducted about 1,200 interviews and collected more than 1 million documents. And Congressman Adam Schiff says those include some troubling new details.
You'll see why we're concerned that that witnesses may have been interfered with or an attempt to influence them.
The committee has already voted to recommend to the Department of Justice that federal prosecutors should pursue possible criminal charges against former President Trump and some of his associates. Now, the latest developments and the possible criminal charges leading to a lot of questions this week. One, a lot of people are asking, can Congress charge people with crimes? Casey Decker finds out.
The House January 6th committee has finally wrapped up its investigation and recommended criminal charges against former President Trump for his alleged role in the insurrection. They summarized the evidence and sent it to the Department of Justice. But is that really all the committee can do? Could Congress itself charge someone with a federal crime? Let's verify. Our sources, the Department of Justice, the FBI, the American Bar Association, and Daniel Richman, a law professor at Columbia University. Because of decades of laws, constitutional interpretation, and practical precedent, federal charges can only be brought by federal prosecutors.
The Justice Department has a complete monopoly over the bringing of federal criminal statutes.
Normally, the way it works, an agency like the FBI investigates possible federal crimes and passes on the evidence to federal prosecutors within the Department of Justice, who ultimately decide what, if any, charges to pursue. With January 6th, it's a little different. In this case, the committee did their own investigating and are now passing on the evidence to federal prosecutors. Now, the DOJ has actually been conducting its own separate investigation, but this move from Congress could provide new evidence and, perhaps more importantly, put some symbolic or political pressure on prosecutors to move forward with charges against Trump. But the committee report holds no more legal weight than if any ordinary citizen wrote a letter to the DOJ. It's not an actual criminal charge, and it doesn't even mandate any action from prosecutors.
That doesn't mean that there is a necessity for prosecutors to pursue this case, and I'm not sure, as I said, what it radically will change their decision making, but they'll think, I suspect, long and hard about walking away from a case to the extent that a very clear, powerful picture of criminality has been assembled by the committee.
So we can verify, no, Congress does not have the power to charge someone with a crime. With your Verify, I'm Casey Decker.
Doesn't feel too bad out there right now, but a big blast of cold Arctic air. It's on the way. It arrives tomorrow. Just how cold it's going to get and your chance of seeing some snow coming up when THV 11 News at noon returns.